All right, what is going on, everyone? Rick Ucchino here again on the SK Wrestling YouTube channel, Twitter channel, Facebook, all of our social medias, live from Tampa Bay, Florida. As you might notice, I'm sitting in a hotel room. I'm in a Hilton in Tampa Bay getting ready for WrestleMania weekend. Made sure to watch NXT TakeOver Night 2, and we are here to break it all down for you. We appreciate everybody who's hopping in already. Joining me here, Ryan Droste and Jeremy Bennett. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good, man. A good start to the weekend. I think we got the table set. And I think the bar is set pretty high for Saturday and Sunday.
100% agree. Rick, thanks for having me on the show. We've been talking for a while. First time we've actually talked, on air really in any way.
Exactly.
Making my Sportskeeda debut. Appreciate the invite.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on, and hopefully this is the first of many. And this was a stacked card. I think between night 1 and night 2, outside of Ciampa and Walter, which I still think was like the best overall match of these 2 nights. A lot of the matches I was really looking forward to when it came to TakeOver Stand and Deliver were on night 2. Jeremy, I'll start with you. Just overall, do you think that night 2 delivered, shall we say?
I think it did. I really got to sit and think if it really topped night 1. It's really hard. It's so close that I can't really call it right now. I think the match of the night was in night 1, but I think there maybe was an overall solid performance from the entire card tonight that may slightly top night 1. But it's hard to really pick one right now for me at this point.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I would choose night 1. I liked both shows. I thought that night 2 kind of started off a little slower. Took me a little bit longer to get into the show, but about halfway through it kind of turned a little bit. I tend to like the more concise wrestling shows, and I'm sure we're going to get into here maybe with the main event a little bit. I thought it dragged on a little bit long.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad show by any means. I think both, as you said, I think both nights really set the bar high for WrestleMania for sure. But I definitely would choose night 1.
Yeah, and this is something we're going to get into. I thought the main event tonight probably could have ended, 10, maybe 15 minutes earlier than it actually did. I mean, we're talking about something that went 40 plus. It was all good, but at a certain point, I'm just like, come on, man, this guy should be dead already. Like, what are we doing? Like,
yeah.
I think the last shot that O'Reilly hit, that probably should have been where it was at. But we will get there. Appreciate everybody who has joined into the stream so far. Make sure to get your comments in. Make sure to get your questions in. Even if it's something as simple as Dale saying, "I love tacos." Who doesn't love tacos? I mean, come on.
Great take.
Now I'm hungry.
I could spend an entire 2-hour show talking about tacos, and maybe we should do that one time here on Sportskeeda Wrestling for some ungodly reason. But let's start off with the opening matchup of the night. Ladder match for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship to unify them. Santos Escobar versus Jordan Devlin. This is a match that was literally a year in the making, since Devlin had to take that time off, and they decided not to strip the championship from him, but to just crown an interim champion through a tournament. And Santos Escobar has just taken that opportunity and ran with it. And these two guys out of the gate, it was hard hitting. It was fast paced. A lot of really, really great spots in this matchup. That moonsault from Devlin off the top of the ladder, my God, was perfection.
So pretty.
And then they follow it up with that 6 Spanish fly. A little too much staging for my liking, but still the end result was worth it in the end. And then Devlin just takes that vicious bump through the ladder. I mean, this one was hard hitting. Escobar does get the win with the help of Legado del Fantasma. Ryan, let's start with you. What did you think about this opening matchup? I know you said it took you a little bit to get into the show, so maybe you weren't liking this one as much.
So I don't want to be the negative one on this show. Making my debut. I did. I mean, like you were going into the cool spots. The Spanish fly, the freaking moonsault was awesome, right? But I'm old school, man. And I got to tell you, this match, I like the story going in. I like having the 2 champions. It brings me back to my childhood, WrestleMania 10, all of that. I like both of these guys as performers. But I thought the psychology was really missing. This match really seemed to me to be big spot, but like the storytelling was lacking a little bit, because early on I thought they were going with the story of Devlin had this hurt knee. He got attacked with the ladder. The announcers were selling it. If the announcers bring up something, like it's in the bullet points, they're supposed to be talking about that. And so they're talking about Devlin's hurt knee. And then look, a couple minutes later, the knee pain went away and he didn't sell it the entire rest of the match. And I'm thinking like, okay,
adrenaline's a hell of a thing, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying too, though. I mean, like if you do a moonsault off the top of a ladder, which was an amazing athletic feat, right? I want to see you grab the knee afterwards and scream in pain, but then you're also screaming in adrenaline, but there really was like no sell at all from that. And so again, it had really cool spots, but I felt like to me, it didn't really stand out that much. I was actually a little bit disappointed with the match, to be honest with you.
Jeremy, I know you're a big Escobar guy. What did you think?
Oh yeah, a big Escobar guy for sure. I have been a big fan of his since his Lucha Underground days. I agree. I think the psychology. I mean, look at what Walter did the entire match last night. Yeah. That was the psychology that maybe Devlin could have needed in this. But overall, I thought it was a good match because it was different. Almost every ladder match in NXT is balls to the wall from bell to bell. This one actually kind of built up to it. It kind of had a slow build to it and then worked its way up to those high spots. So I think I kind of liked it for the fact that it was a little more unique than a typical ladder match in NXT. And so. And I was not surprised with the finish. I think, part of me was kind of wanting Escobar to lose and maybe go bump up into the championship picture. But in the end, I really wasn't surprised that Legado came out and helped him out. You may get tired of it, but he's a heel. Well, we thought, but then he brings his son out onto the stage afterwards. But overall, I thought I liked it. I mean, it wasn't one of those jaw-dropping, we're going to talk about it 6 months from now matches, but I liked it for the fact that they kind of made it a unique style compared to other ladder matches in NXT.
Going to some of the comments here. Here says, night one felt more upbeat and some more feel-good moments. Plus, I think Ciampa and Walter was the best overall match. I think we're all in agreement on that one. Yeah. Cam says, night two was awesome. Said the ladder match and the championship match made it for him. Derek, this one was another really good one from night one. Said his favorite match from both nights was Kushida versus Pete Dunne. It's really hard to argue there. Kevin's asking, are you guys as happily exhausted as I am? I think everybody's exhausted after watching an NXT TakeOver, especially when you get a 40-minute just drag down chair fight when you're getting thrown through grates. And plus, I started this morning reading news in Cincinnati, Ohio, and now I'm doing a recap show in Tampa Bay, Florida. So it has been a day for me. So I'm already exhausted. So yeah, that match definitely
and you're not going to get a break because you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Oh, next Saturday you might get a break.
Yeah, next Saturday I might finally get a break. That would be good for sure. And I mean, heck, technically WrestleMania starts tomorrow because it's the WrestleMania version of SmackDown or whatever the heck they're calling it. We will recap all of that on Smack Talk tomorrow night right here on all the SK socials. I will say this much, though. I do think Escobar winning was the right call for this matchup, even though and Jeremy, to your point, I'm sick of the interference. There was a and we'll get to it later with Johnny Gargano's match. Same thing there. I just get so tired of the constant interference in WWE matches, and I think it's just because they do it so often that even when it makes sense or even when it's right for a character, it just kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So I would have rather just because Escobar is so damn good, right? Like I don't think he needs the help to win.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Would it have been a little more of an exciting marquee matchup if a guy like Trent Seven would have came along and beaten Devlin instead of the other way around a couple of months ago?
I still think this is the right matchup just because that's the story there. And, and this is something, I talked to Escobar, it feels like 10 years ago now, but a few months back, talking about, hey, is this the matchup that we need to see one day? And he was like, absolutely, this is it. It's like, I need to prove I am the cruiserweight champion, and he did it tonight. And this was the matchup that I think they were setting up for year. It wouldn't have made any sense, I don't think, to have Devlin to keep the cruiserweight championship on Devlin and then not have him in a unification match against the guy who was the interim. Ryan,
100% agree. I like the story of him having the title for, what was it, 400 some days or something like that. Yeah, it would have been kind of deflating for him to drop it and to never get that match that you wanted to see.
Yeah, I just think with the casual fans, I don't know if they don't know Devlin as well as maybe a guy like Trent Seven because of Mustache Mountain. And so that was kind of why I kind of thought about that as the build was kind of coming up to tonight. I kind of just thought about that and what you guys thought about it.
One thing I will say about Santos Escobar is he is making this cruiserweight championship feel so damn important. Like it's more marquee and I think more important than, honestly, I can remember since they brought back, heck, the cruiserweights or the cruiserweight championship. It
hasn't been this prestigious since that tournament to crown the first one, I think.
Yeah, I would agree too.
All right, continue to get your comments in, guys. We'll go ahead and roll on to the second matchup of the night, which is for the women's tag team titles, the NXT women's tag team titles. Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart versus The Way. It really does impress me how much chemistry that Ember and Shotzi have with one another, considering they've only been tagging for a couple of months now. These two got together and they just clicked. In true Shotzi fashion, she attempted to kill herself again with another dive to the outside that nobody caught her. It's your job. If you're
the wall did.
The wall caught her neck. Okay, like. Oh my goodness! Like, it's your job on the outside to catch them. Please get a body part in front of it, something, anything. I think there were a lot of great double team moves. I think both of these tag teams work really well. I also think it was the right call to have Ember and Shotzi retain, because you don't want to do that hot potato thing with the women's tag team titles this early, especially since Raquel and Dakota had them for less than an hour before Ember and Shotzi won. Jeremy, what do you think of this one?
I really enjoyed it. I love. I was really excited for the fact that Indy is getting into an NXT TakeOver match. I liked that. I think there's, honestly, I think the right team won, because I really think they got to really break through Candice to be a champion here eventually. I don't know when it's going to be, considering, I guess, Raquel's a heel now, and I don't know if they're going to. I have a really good feeling that Dakota Kai is going to turn on her and she's going to become babyface. So maybe Candice is the one that takes it off her down the line. But I really enjoyed the match. Everybody worked really well together. And man, I just love I just love how Shotzi does that senton to finish it.
That's good.
It looks unique. It looks sharp. And I thought that was a great way to finish it. But it was a really good, a job well done from those ladies.
Ryan, did this start to turn the night for you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. I just really like the team of Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart so much. Like, as you mentioned, they haven't been together that long, but they truly do feel like they have been. They just have like great chemistry together. I feel like that's the thing that's been missing in the main roster women's tag division, is most of the teams just feel like they're thrown together and it's hard to get invested in it. When they announced the NXT Tag Team Championships for the women, I was not super high on it because they haven't been able to get the main roster women's tags, right. I kind of like that you'd have those floating down to NXT too. But I will say they've done a good job establishing so far early on the NXT Tag Team Championships with the women here. I think this is a good team. I think you get months and months and months out of this team, not just as they're running together, but I think the eventual breakup between Ember and Shotzi is going to lead to a great one-on-one storyline down the road. So I'm pretty high on them as a team. I like the match, like you mentioned, with sloppy in parts, with Shotzi flying to the outside and falling pretty hard. There's like a Tower of Doom spot that didn't look so great either. But overall, it was a pretty fun match. And the right team won. You can't do the title change this early on.
Yeah, hang on. There was actually a quote, because I talked to Shotzi a couple weeks ago, and this was a quote, and I put this out on my Twitter, which you can follow me, by the way, at Rick Ucchino. She says, "I want everyone to feel like, oh no, is Shotzi going to die in this match?" Well, you did it again, girl. All right, like seriously.
Between her and Darby Allin, man, I don't know.
And Greg had the comment here that Shotzi does have terrible luck where it just doesn't seem like people never catch her. I'll say she also has very, very good luck that she's been able to not massively injure herself yet. But I mean, she's got balls, for lack of a better term, man. She doesn't care. She'll throw herself. She throws caution to the wind and throws herself anywhere and everywhere she wants. And it is fun to watch her in these matches. And I do like this tag team together. Ryan already trying to break him up over here. Like,
who would you like to be the heel in that situation?
Probably Shotzi.
It'd be fun to see Shotzi as a heel. I think.
Yeah. I want that months down the road, to be clear, not right away. But I feel like again, you can get. I mean, you could get 6 months to a year out of this situation.
Their personalities are they work so well together. You saw that in that backstage interview with Mackenzie. It was so good.
Exactly. All right, so they're going to hang on to those women's tag team titles probably for a little bit. And Ryan, as you said, they're actually doing a pretty good job of establishing these tag team titles, and they have a bevy of actual, honest to goodness tag teams that they can feud with. Whereas on the main roster, they break up teams for no reason, and now we're getting like Carmella and Billie Kay for whatever reason.
Right?
I'm sure we'll get into that this weekend. This one was, of all the ones that we talked about, match of the night or match of the show candidates. The North American Championship matchup between Johnny Gargano and Bronson Reed was. I mean, I just love a good old-fashioned David and Goliath type matchup. First off, can we just show some respect to Johnny's ring gear game coming out in the Iron Man inspired gear, and not just any Iron Man inspired gear, but like the prototype, like the first one where he comes out in the cave. Either that or he was trying to do War Machine. I couldn't tell if it was that first one from when he was in the cave or if he was doing War Machine or not. But still, man, the guy knocks it out of the park with his ring gear every time.
Always, yeah.
But this one, I like this because Gargano, he came in with a strategy. And Ryan, you were talking about this with the storytelling early on in that first match where it was lacking. It was not lacking here. He was going right after the midsection. And Bronson, to his credit, I mean, he sold it for the majority of the matchup. He was trying to keep the big man down. He was trying to keep the big man winded. But I mean, some of the counters that these guys, whether it was coming in from a submission and going into a power move or going from a power move into a strike, they were just so smooth and seamless. And yes, Johnny got the win via a little bit of help, but Bronson Reed came out of this one looking like a stud absolutely as well. What did you think, Ryan?
Yeah, no, this is certainly where the show turned for me. I really, really like this match. I thought... So early on, it seemed like there was a few miscommunications between the two of them, and I got a little worried, but man, they kicked it into high gear. They had a great match. I always like the David versus Goliath story in pro wrestling, and Johnny Gargano, I mean, what can you say? This guy's been one of the top stars of NXT for years and years and years. I'm still not quite sure I like him as a heel. That's another conversation we could have. But I mean, man, he worked his butt off here. They had a good match. To me, at this point, I was following my Twitter timeline. Most people had liked the ladder match the most. But to me, to this point in the show, this was the match of the night at this point. I was a big fan. I liked it a lot.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I would agree that I would put this ahead of the ladder match for sure. And it's proof that Johnny Gargano can work with anybody of any shape, any size, any ability. And on the flip side, I thought this was going to be Bronson's to win. I thought it was set up that way, but it didn't come out to be that. But, in the loss, I think Bronson looked tremendous. I mean, some of the moves he pulled off were just insane. I mean, he went for a moonsault and missed it. He even was part of a reverse Rana. Johnny got a reverse Rana on him. And, and that takes two people to do, by the way. So, Bronson looked really good here. The future is going to be bright for him. I don't expect him to be out of the title picture anytime soon, whether that they put him with a tag team or if he works his way back up into the North American picture.
Yeah, I think I was a little surprised that Bronson actually got this matchup in the first place because I think it was And maybe they did this just to kind of make it not so predictable. But I thought Loomis, the way that he has been like that main protagonist in the story with Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory and all them, I thought he was a shoe-in to win that matchup on night one and get the title shot here. So maybe they're saving that for down the road. They want to give Johnny a little bit of a longer title run before Dexter comes in and wins that. But it was because of that reason, because you had that backstory there. Either one of two things was going to happen. Either Loomis was going to show up and cost Johnny the title, which obviously did not happen, or Johnny was going to find a way to win. And he found a way to win because of Austin Theory, who got involved again in this matchup. So we had, in our first three matches, we had two of them. The heels win due to outside interference. And I'm just sitting here and I'm going, this match is so damn good. And you're pulling out the outside interference with Austin Theory and everything. And I'm just like, why? I don't know. Do you think it wasn't necessary in this matchup?
They did it right last night where Dakota interfered right away and threw her out right away, and it was 1-on-1. That was perfect. And, I think they just lean too heavily on that interference card with some people sometimes. Yeah. And they didn't need to with Gargano.
Ron?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think they lean on that just because it's the tried and true way to get a heel a victory here. But I think with Gargano's history in the promotion, you don't need to do that with him. What is your guys' take, by the way, on the Johnny Gargano heel run? Are you fans of it or not? Because to me, like I said, I was a fan of the match. I'm a fan of Johnny Gargano. I think as it's gone on, it's got a little bit better. When they first turned him heel, well, actually, the first heel run he had a few years ago, I've really felt like it kind of undermined him because he was that baby face that everyone wanted to get behind on the brand. And then the heel turn seemed to come out of nowhere. And then he turned back face and then he turned heel again. And I just feel like once we get crowds back, people just want to cheer this guy. And he's been kind of working from behind as a heel. Not that he's done a bad job. It just doesn't really fit his character to me. And so like with the outside interference thing, I agree with you. They don't need to do that. And it hasn't synced up for me still. I'm still not a fan of the Johnny Gargano heel run. What do you guys think about that?
I think it was an experiment worth trying with him just because at a certain point with some of these guys, because we're at a cycle now with NXT where you don't have as many people graduating after that certain point. Like if this was 5 years ago, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, those guys, they would already be on Raw or SmackDown right now. So now the NXT is at a certain situation where they're trying to figure out how to, keep these guys on the show and do fresh new things with them while also bringing up and comers. So you have babyface Johnny Gargano doing his thing for 2-3 years, however long that stretch was. I think it was a decent experiment to try something new with him and see if you could break new ground with him. And hey, at least this heel run with him, he's getting now an extended run with the North American Championship because all of his title reigns have been of about 8 minutes. Every time he wins it, he immediately drops it. So it's been hit or miss with me. Same thing with Candice LeRae. I do think he and Austin Theory have a good dynamic together. Austin Theory as this big meathead is actually pretty funny. But it's kind of hit or miss for me, Jeremy.
I think it's entertaining, at least with the vignettes and everything, especially with what Candice and Johnny were doing from home at first. I thought those were very entertaining segments. And then they added Indy and Austin. And I thought, to me, I've liked what The Way is done. I liked the goofy comedy, but yet still being a heel. And at the same time, once the crowds come back, you could make them babyface and they can still do the goofy stuff. But I honestly think the stuff with just Candice and Johnny in the beginning, the stuff they did at home, I thought it was actually tremendous stuff.
Let's go back to some of the comments here. Victor with a bold prediction. He says Raquel Gonzalez versus Tessa Blanchard for the NXT Women's title. Mark my word. So I don't know if we got some inside information there. Last time I checked, Tessa was still a free agent. Cam wants to know what's going on with the kilt that Karrion Kross was working in. I don't think it was a kilt. I think it was a gladiator.
Gladiator, yeah.
Oh God, I can't remember his name now.
Maximus or
Yeah, the who played him? Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
The Russell Crowe movie. Go check that out. Victor also says that Io Shirai. This is something that I think we should talk about here just for a quick second. Io Shirai going to be called up to the main roster Monday after Mania. Do you think Io Shirai, now that she has dropped the NXT Women's Championship, should move up to the main roster, the air quote main roster? Ryan, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, she's been ready. She never really needed to be in NXT, but she's held it together. I think that there was a point where the NXT women's division, like after Sasha, the Four Horsewomen, when they all went up, there was kind of a low point for the women's division, and then they built it back up. And I feel like Io Shirai, for the last couple of years, has been really the glue that's held it together. I mean, she's amazing. Yeah, I want to see her on the main roster now. I don't think there's really anything for her to do in NXT at this point. I think that was pretty clearly her send-off.
Jeremy, I think you and I are going to agree on this one.
Yeah, I worry. I worry because look what they did with Kairi Sane. I honestly don't think they need to bring her up, but at the same time, what is there left to do? She can maybe have a side feud with and have great matches with people like Toni Storm. She's had this thing with Zoe Stark, who has done a tremendous job on NXT. Maybe you could have the veteran and the up and comer together working as a tag team. You could do that. I have another call up that I think was foreshadowed earlier. I might talk about later though.
Here's my thing. Look, my issue isn't with Io Shirai at all. I don't want her on the main roster right now because they can't figure out how to properly use the women they have right now. You've got people like Peyton Royce and Nikki Cross just sitting on the bench, not doing anything on Monday Night Raw. Can't get on TV in a 3-hour show. This past Monday on Raw, they had one women's match and one women's segment in a 3-hour show that covered maybe 12 minutes of a 3-hour show. SmackDown, honestly, not a whole lot better. They basically just put this turmoil matchup together to get more women on the card. So until last Friday, they had 2 women's matches on WrestleMania. The booking has been so bad on Raw and SmackDown for months now. So I'm putting them in timeout. All right, no new toys, no new toys until they play with the ones they got.
Here's what I think about that. So I think you got to be pretty careful because. So I agree 100% with you on the main roster stuff. I mean, the women's division has been booked pretty poorly. All you got to do is look at Asuka, who hasn't had a real title defense in months.
The last title defense on a pay-per-view was Clash of Champions in September.
Right. So they don't have, and this is actually a problem in the men's division too. I mean, the amount of challengers they have lined up for feuds is just not there. Like, it's really hard to predict the main roster long term because they haven't established challengers that you can buy into, and that is certainly the case on Monday Night Raw, 100%. Which is one of the reasons why I think you need Io Shirai there, because I feel like if Io Shirai is not in the NXT women's title picture and she does a side feud with Toni Storm or something, I think that you risk not capitalizing on her while the character's hot. She just had this long title run. She's at the top of her game. She goes off and does this side thing, and you risk her coming to the main roster at some point where she doesn't have the momentum. And I kind of feel like if you're going to do it, you do it now, right after, yes, she lost, but she had just had this long title run. You put her up there now, and you immediately give her some big wins. You don't do what they did with Rhea Ripley a year ago, for example, right? I mean, you bring her up. I mean, she could challenge her right away if you want.
Or what they did with Rhea Ripley this year.
Well, yeah,
she finished second in the Royal Rumble, and then they parked her in catering for 2 months. And then, oh, well, crap, now Charlotte's not available. Well, all right, 2 weeks before Mania, here's Rhea Ripley, and she's just going to challenge Asuka. And boom, there's our big title feud heading into WrestleMania.
Hopefully they redeem themselves at Mania. Yet to be seen. But, I mean, last year was a massive error with her at WrestleMania. I think everyone agrees on that. And you got to do better with Io Shirai, and you got to rehab Rhea Ripley here this weekend, too.
Yeah, I think Rhea challenging Asuka this early, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, I get it, you know, she's confident, she's cocky, she wanted to step right up to the champion. But if you look at her body of work over the last few months, outside of just sitting and catering, to what you were talking about, Ryan, with Io, as she cools down, Rhea had cooled down. She had lost like 5 of her last 6 matches. Outside of finishing second in the Royal Rumble, she really hadn't done a whole lot. And then she's off TV for several months, and then boom. Now, I think it would have made a perfect story to just have her face Charlotte. No title involved, no nothing. Just, hey, I want my redemption. I want to prove myself because I have been on this down. It's basically the Rock John Cena story all over again, right? Like John Cena blamed the Rock for that whole year long. Like, hell, I think he even blamed him for his divorce in kayfabe. So it's like he lost that match to the Rock at WrestleMania, and his whole world down spiraled. You could have played that same angle with Rhea Ripley, and then had her come back and challenge Charlotte at WrestleMania this year, and then that would have opened up Asuka to fight, I don't know, literally anybody else.
No, I agree. I actually wrote a column on Sportskeeda 1 or 2, maybe 2 weeks ago about and I got some heat from this from some of the readers, but I think Charlotte should have been added to the match to make it a triple threat. After they put Rhea Ripley in the match, I thought you should add Charlotte because she needs to get the comeuppance from Rhea Ripley. And so if you're not going to do the singles match between them, which I agree would be preferable, once they had already put Rhea Ripley in that match, I wanted to see Charlotte added to it solely to take the fall, because I do think Ripley needs to get that win over her, and what better way than at WrestleMania? So the triple threat would make sense to me, but obviously they're not going that direction. So
they still could. There's still time.
Yeah, I mean, they could change it, but
I can't believe, and Jeremy, maybe you can talk on this too. I still can't believe the fact that we're heading into WrestleMania this weekend and we have no Charlotte, no Bayley. I mean, obviously, Becky's not active right now. But hell, look at this. 2 years ago, main event of WrestleMania. Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda. None of them are on the WrestleMania 37 card 2 years later. That is strange to me.
2-3 weeks ago, I came up with the idea, you know, you've got this, this quarterly, whatever, cross-brand thing.
Brand invitational.
I thought that would have been perfect to have Charlotte come over and just challenge Bayley for an interpromotional match and just have them tear the house down. Don't really need a build with these two. Just have her come over, point to the sign, and book the match.
There's a lot of things they could have done with Bayley, like literally anything.
Host of WrestleMania, even.
She's the MVP of last year to me. WWE. I mean, yeah.
Look, this is an analogy that I've made before on Twitter, and I'm going to make it again. It's just like Bayley was the MVP, like you said, Ryan, for all of 2020. And now they're coming up on WrestleMania, your Super Bowl, and they put her on the bench. That would be like the Buccaneers benching Tom Brady. Okay, like it just doesn't make any sense at all, which makes me think there's something else in the works here, because they had her doing WrestleMania media this week. She talked to Alex McCarthy from Talk Sport about WrestleMania when she wasn't on the card, and she just flat out said, hey, look, I don't have anything, and even if I did have something, I probably wouldn't tell you, which makes me think maybe there is going to be something there. I don't know. So maybe it's a return, maybe it's a shock, but
maybe
somewhere.
Yeah, maybe she goes into the ring and it does this rant, and then Becky and Ronda come out and just beat the hell out of her.
I would be fine with that. That would be cool. I would pop in the press box for that. For
Bayley and Charlotte as a surprise tag team in the tag team turmoil match.
Ooh,
sure. Throw it out there.
I like that.
Whatever gets her on the card. Frankly, I find it very hard to believe that she's not going to be there. How did we get to this? Oh yeah, we were talking about Io Shirai possibly.
That's when you know you're having a good show, man. Right there, you go.
We fell down the rabbit hole.
And Victor, by the way, this is what I was thinking. If they do bring up Io Shirai to the main roster, this is what you're getting. It's Shirai and Asuka as your next women's tag team. Maybe tag team champions, probably yes, but they're going to put them together in a tag team. That's more than likely what they're going to do.
I think the Raw women's division needs a shot in the arm more than the SmackDown women's division does. So I think putting her on Raw and with Rhea there now, I think that gives it a shot in the arm that it needs.
Agree.
It just got a big boost with Rhea, so we'll see what direction they decide to go. All right, so let's get into our co-main events of the night, shall we? We'll start with the NXT Championship. Finn Balor defending against Karrion Kross, and I absolutely loved the storytelling in this matchup. This was like some serious gamesmanship from Balor to like open up the match. It's like every time he got his like jaw jacked, he just pop back up and give him that smirk douchebag smile, like Karrion, like he was just trying to get him heated, and that was it. It was brains versus a brawn type matchup, and I'm not calling Kross an idiot by any stretch of the imagination, but Balor was trying to throw him off his game and just get him pissed off so he can make some mistakes, and you saw that play out early. But I mean, these two, they transitioned into everything very smoothly, but in the end, Kross just way too powerful. He ends up walking away with the NXT Championship, which is what I thought was going to happen. Jeremy, overall, what'd you think of the first main event of the evening?
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you're right. I use that same term on Twitter, gamesmanship. That was exactly what was going on, and it made the opening part of the match really fun. I was surprised at the result because there was always these rumblings that Kross was going to and Scarlett were going to get called up, so I fully expected that this was going to be his swan song from NXT, and Balor was going to remain champion. And then he hits the Saito suplex and the forearm, and I expected a kick out, and he didn't kick out. And I'm like, well, okay, this is good because they're putting over that move as just a monstrous move that nobody kicks out of, in a world where people, I like sometimes when people kick out of finishers, it does make a match really good. But at the same time, they made a statement with the fact that Balor didn't kick out of that finisher that I don't know if it has a name or not either.
Devastation, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, so earlier I was critical of the ladder match and I talked about psychology. This match, these guys get ring psychology. This was my match of the night. I absolutely loved the storytelling in this match right from the start. You had, as you mentioned, Balor trying to get into the head of Karrion Kross, smirking and laughing and trying to. They said on commentary, I think it was Wade Barrett, he said now he's just trying to piss off Kross. They talked about how when he's emotional, he'll make mistakes. So that was great. And then you had Balor working, they kept saying the liver, but like the abdomen of Karrion Kross. And Karrion Kross sold that throughout the remainder of the match. You know that he's doing it to build up to the coup de grace, which was great. Even when Karrion Kross won and he was celebrating with the title, he was still grabbing his abdomen. Like that's the kind of storytelling I love in wrestling, that continuity throughout the match. So yeah, I mean, I thought they told a great story. I thought the match was very good. Match of the night for me, 100%. And I was also surprised. I thought Karrion Kross was probably going up to the main roster, but we'll see what happens here. But great match.
See, that's interesting to me because you both thought that Kross was going to lose. I thought this was a slam dunk Karrion all the way just because of how that he has been booked. Yeah, there's always that option of him getting called up. I still think it's too soon because he's only had 13 singles matches since he's been in NXT. He hasn't really had that chance to really kind of blossom and get that big run that we thought he was going to have when they hot-shotted him the NXT Championship in the first place against, a month after Keith Lee won it, and then they called Keith Lee to the main roster. Now, if Vince wants a guy, he's going to get the guy no matter what. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Case in point, what they were doing with Keith Lee. That guy was on fire. He was on top of the world. He was a double champion, and then he relinquishes one title so he can have this big run with the NXT Championship, and then Vince is like, yeah, give me that big guy. And it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, we're going to go with Karrion Kross now, and then Kross gets hurt. So in the end, I do think that this was the right move to make. Now, Finn has had an absolutely stellar run, completely reinvented himself, completely reinvigorated himself, put everything into this Prince character and had a fantastic run with the NXT Championship. For me, though, I think it was time to give Kross the run with a championship that he hadn't had yet. So for me, I think this was the right move. Now, you said you were shocked, but do you agree with the decision, Ryan?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. I'm all in on this now. I could go either way on it. It was just kind of what I was expecting. I look at Karrion Kross as a guy who he could be a challenger, right away. So, for example, if Drew McIntyre wins the title, as might happen, I think that's kind of hard to predict. Bobby could retain. But eventually Drew McIntyre is going to get the title back. And I think a Drew McIntyre Karrion Kross feud would be awesome. Mm-hmm. So, depending on what the timeline is for Drew's next run, I want to see Karrion Kross up there, but we might have a little while. So yeah, I think to your point, Rick, we didn't get that extended title run with him before because of the injury. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think it was very apropos that Balor drops the title to a guy who lost the title the day after his injury because that exact same thing happened to Balor. I think that was so I think storyline or just, in the scheme of things, I think that was a very fitting thing in the universe of what's going on with both of those gentlemen. Kross is just, a monster. And like I said, Balor didn't kick out of that finisher at all. So I think Kross is going to probably have a lengthy run. I don't even know off the top of my head who could take it off him at this point. I had an idea that I told Rick on Twitter that I think Santos Escobar could be a very intriguing feud with him way down the line. But I think way down the line, I think that's way off in my opinion. I think Kross is going to be an unstoppable machine that you look around the NXT roster. Can you really name anybody off the top of your head in the next 4 months that could do it?
No, and that was honestly that was my next question. That's where I was going because I did the same thing. I looked at the NXT roster on WWE.com and I'm sitting there and I'm going, nope. I have no clue who's beating this guy. None. I don't know if this is going to be a situation where it's just like he just runs roughshod over everybody for 6 to 8 months and then just says, my work here is done. See you guys, and just goes off and gets called up without ever dropping the championship. I just don't. I don't know if there's anybody there. Maybe there's somebody in developmental that they're going to be able to groom along for the next 6 months, or a new signee, somebody gets dropped back down. Maybe a guy like Shinsuke Nakamura gets dropped back down.
Oh, please give me that. Give me that match.
somebody for the catering crew right now who's not being used, who wants to get out of there and get back down to NXT. That might be interesting, but I'm looking. I don't see Ryan. You see anybody?
No, I like that Nakamura idea now that you
mentioned. Wasn't even thinking about that.
I would have not thought about that. I don't know. You build up Kyle O'Reilly, maybe David versus Goliath. I don't know that he would win the title, but I could see him as an NXT champion.
I'm biased, but I'd love to. I would not see him take the title off of him, but I would love to see this as a title feud. I'd love to see LA Knight in there with Karrion. Yeah, I'd love to see LA Knight in there against Karrion Kross, just because I'm a little biased. He's one of my favorites. But as for to take, there is nobody really that is built to take that off of him. I'm drawing a complete blank, and I think you may have come up with the perfect solution, because what are they, they looked like they were putting that Cesaro push onto Nakamura for a bit, but then they really hit the brakes on that, and he's
that's got Cesaro re-signed.
So it's I would say that would be the exact kind of move that reinvigorated Finn, and you brought the Prince back. You brought the Bullet Club Finn Balor, kind of out of him when he came back to NXT. I think that same invigoration could happen to Shinsuke. That's a great idea.
How about a trade? Because Finn Balor now, what do you do with him? And he said in interviews before that his run in NXT was not expected to be that long at all. And I think he kind of helped fill that void when Karrion Kross went out and stepped in as champion. And then his run in NXT went from a 3-month thing to however long it's been now.
Oh, I got a perfect idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have him go for the Universal Championship, because he's never won that back.
Correct.
You put him on SmackDown and have him go for the Universal title.
I would take him versus Roman Reigns. I would take him versus Edge. I would take him versus Daniel Bryan. Any one of those matches would absolutely slap. It's funny, I'm not trying to plug every interview that I've ever done, but I did ask Finn Balor about that earlier this year. Interestingly enough, that's something that doesn't really mean a whole lot to him, is getting another shot at the Universal Champion. Like, it's not something that he's going to go out of his way to do. So it's not something that he would push for, I think. I think that's something that the company would decide, we need to circle back around and do it.
I think it would be a good Mania story. He wins the Rumble, chooses the title he never lost. I think it would be a good Mania type of story.
There's a great callback and some great long-term booking there. But remember, it took him like 3 years just to get another shot at that Universal Championship too. I don't know. It's like he got hurt and Vince was like, screw you.
Yeah, they didn't follow up on that. What would you guys think about Walter versus Karrion Kross? And you do like the long reigning UK champion against the NXT champion and like a unification match or something like SummerSlam weekend.
That's the winner right there, I think.
I want it. I want it.
Yeah.
Just give me all the beef in the ring and just, let those two butt heads for 40 plus minutes. The other guy I'll throw out there, just because this is a story they really haven't told yet, is eventually Ciampa has to get his hands back on Goldie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like eventually he has to get back on that train of I want my championship back, because they really haven't told that story. Like he went after it for a little bit, but then Johnny turned on him, and then their whole rivalry like cooked back up, and now he's been weaving his way through with the things going on with Timothy Thatcher, but he couldn't take out Walter. And that would be kind of a similar matchup with Karrion Kross, so I don't know how you do. You might have to put some space in between that, but I would love to see Tommaso Ciampa get back into the title picture at some point. Getting back to some comments, Victor says Kross remains NXT champion for nearly a year. Yeah, probably. Considering what we just broke down the entire roster, we have no idea who's going to win that bad boy. I just don't know. Doug says maybe Dexter Lumis if they build him right. That would be Dexter's got the build, man. I mean, the guy's a freak. He's an athletic freak, but I think he's going to have a run with the North American Championship. Anything. Victor also says Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas makes his triumphant return to NXT since he hasn't been used in over a year. But for some reason,
God, what are they doing with that guy?
Nothing.
I mean,
literally nothing.
Happily cashing his checks.
Maybe get Cameron Grimes. Maybe Cameron Grimes in there.
You know what?
He buys his way to the top.
I envy Bo Dallas so much. That guy is living the American dream. He is getting paid to do absolutely nothing, and he's just chilling, living on a farm somewhere with Liv Morgan. Like, I mean, he doesn't need to wrestle. The guy's living the perfect life.
I am so baffled at what they are doing with that guy. I am baffled.
I mean, you would think there would be some kind of story they could tell there with Bray. Like, I think that would be an obvious.
Anybody that looks at the history of the NXT Championship and sees that this guy had such a good run and was one of the high profile matches of one of the first takeovers, and now you look in the rest of his career and you're like, what are they doing with this guy?
I don't know, but I believe in Bo Dallas. That's all I'm going to say.
Man, bring him back to NXT, please. That'd be great.
See, that's the problem. Is like you got, and this is part of the problem with WWE right now. Is you have so many people who either want to stay in NXT or want to come back to NXT. It's like, isn't that a sign that you're kind of doing things wrong?
That's your A show.
All right, well, let's get to the A matchup of the night, the main event match, and this was the one I was actually glad that closed the matchup, because this was a rivalry closed the night, excuse me. This was a rivalry that got very heated, very personal, very, very quickly. Two very talented guys who have a history with one another. These guys have been wrestling each other since pretty much they got into the business in Ring of Honor, and then over in Japan, they were at Wrestle Kingdom 11 fighting over the Ring of Honor Championship, and then they come to NXT, and they have been teammates. They have been best friends ever since, and this is the first time we've really gotten to see them showcase what they can do against one another inside a WWE ring, inside an NXT ring. First things first, their new music sucks. Both of them, I think we can all agree on that. This was just absolute crap. Couldn't you just keep Adam Cole with the Undisputed Era theme so you could still do the boom? Like, he tried to do the boom, but it just didn't fit.
They did it with Roman Reigns and it worked. So,
Yeah.
Right? So
I didn't hate the themes, but they were create an entrance 1 and 2 on WWE 2K.
That was my thought too. They had the announcement today that WWE 2K is making the reveal during WrestleMania weekend, and when they came out, I thought these themes have create a wrestler all over them, just generic guitar solo that goes on and on. I thought the Undisputed Era theme is one of the best they've had over the last few years. So that was pretty disappointing to me.
How the heck?
Well, that's a CFO one, isn't it? That's a CFO song, isn't it?
Yeah.
How the heck is Kyle O'Reilly supposed to come down and play air guitar to this? Like
he tried. He tried.
He tried. It just didn't work.
I think a lot of the wrestlers, a lot of the themes, they have started with something and then they kind of add on to it and build to it. So maybe there's hope, but no, they really the CFO was so good. It was hard to top Jim Johnston back in the day, but CFO did a good job with themes, and now it's oof.
Bring back Jim Johnston. Bring him back. Why not?
That was easily the worst part of the match was the introductions, just because of the music. But when the match got underway, I loved that they went right after each other. They didn't make the same mistake that Ambrose and Rollins did years ago, where they had this heated, bitter rivalry, and then they get in there and they lock up and they start doing all the chain wrestling and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, look, if I want to kill somebody, I'm not going to lock up and put them in a hammerlock and do this other stuff. I'm gonna go after their throat, and that's immediately what these guys did. They immediately started punching each other. And then they brought out the toys. We saw a big ass chain. They got into a toolbox. Obviously, a ton of chairs. The Adam Cole using the chain to clothesline. I thought Kyle O'Reilly was really, really good. It was definitely better than O'Reilly trying to lace up his boots with it. That didn't really work for me. But you know what? You try things in matches like this, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. One spot I really liked though was Kyle kind of showing restraint on the stair spot. Like I'm gonna eye for an eye. Like I'm gonna do what you did to me. But then it's kind of like he had that thought of, but I know what this did to me, and I don't want to do that to you. Like I don't want to put you through what I went through. But then as the match progressed, and they brought it up on commentary, I think it was Wade Barrett who even said this, was like, finally he got to the point where he had to go where he needed to go to win this matchup. He said, all right, screw this. We're going to fly through a grate. I don't give a damn. I'm going to throw you on a steel ring steps. I don't care. I just want to win this matchup. It was a nice long build, very, very long matchup that like I said earlier, probably could have ended a whole 10 minutes earlier than it did. But this was really, really solid storytelling in the end.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes from this match, and they're very long because the match is 40 minutes, I think.
At a certain point,
right on the dot.
Notes.
Yeah, I think you chop off 10 minutes, and this is possibly a match of the year contender. I thought it dragged a little bit. To me, it was the second best match on the show. Not bad by any means. I just like Balor and Kross a little bit more. Someone had a great tweet I saw about this right before they came on the air. It was something about how Cole and O'Reilly put the match together, and they went to Hunter and Sean was like, yeah, it's good, but add another 30 minutes to the match. It's like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what you see at these takeover shows is like the main events. To me, they just always go a little bit too long, at least over the last couple of years, but they did tell a good story. I liked continuing to focus on Kyle's neck. They did that spot early on where he took the fall from the top turnbuckle to the outside, and like they sold that he hit his neck on the ring apron a little bit. There was a really good super kick from Adam Cole where he said, I don't care about your rule about the thigh slapping. I'm going to do it anyways. You can clearly see on the replay, but the kick was awesome. Like it looked like he really took his head off. It was really tight. Brutal spot where they did the suplex on the announce table and the table didn't break. That really stood out to me.
Pull the pins. Pull the pins.
Yep. Cole hit the Panama Sunrise on the injured neck, but there was no referee. Cole had taken out the ref and was screaming at him, when I say shut up, you shut up. That was really good. When they were fighting up the ramp, Vic Joseph screamed out, this was never about the win. Selling the personal rivalry. That was pretty good. But overall, I mean, I liked the match. Cool spots, creative spots with the chain, the tire iron. I like how they wrapped the chain, and the cross arm bar was cool. How they involved the chain in the finish with the knee drop onto the chair.
That was sick.
Finish looked awesome. So I mean, I can't complain about that at all. Just a little long for my taste, but a fun match.
Yeah, as much as I loved the finish of that, I think it would have just been poetic justice for O'Reilly to win on the last shot, and then you could have cut however long it was, 5 minutes off that matchup. Jeremy?
It was my match of the night. I thoroughly loved it. I think a lot of it was because of nostalgia, because when they brought that chain out, I got so excited because I was in Dallas for Supercard of Honor WrestleMania weekend, and the main event was Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly in a chain match. So when they brought that chain out, I was like, oh yes, this is going to get good. And, you know, and you don't hear Vic Joseph use the word ass much, but he said there's going to be an ass kicking. And Vic Joseph was great. He even was chiding Adam Cole when he was doing some dirty tactics, and you could hear him. And I almost thought Adam was going to yell back at him because you could hear it. And he looked over, and I thought, oh, that would have been kind of cool to kind of, talk with Vic Joseph a little bit on that. But I thought the storytelling was great. I think it went 40 minutes because I think they tried to duplicate Gargano and Ciampa. I think that's why they went so long, because this has probably been the most emotional feud since the Gargano and Ciampa feud. So I think that's why they kind of went so long. But it didn't feel that long for me. I was invested throughout, and I just enjoyed it. And man, that finish with the chair sticking up, that was just brilliant. I thought that was a great way to end it. And I think William Regal, had a little smirk on his face when he said he wasn't going to find Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole's heading to SmackDown to feud with Daniel Bryan.
I think if anybody is coming up at this point, and we talked about Io Shirai and we talked about a couple other people as options, what do you do with Adam Cole at this point? Like you split up the UE for a reason, right? I think you do that, and you had the big blow off match with Kyle O'Reilly, and now O'Reilly's going to get his chance to show himself as a singles competitor, maybe work his way up, maybe win the North American Championship or the NXT Championship one day. Roderick Strong is still there. Bobby Fish will come back at some point, but if you're not going to bring them all up as a group, which obviously doesn't seem like an option right now, what is there left for Adam Cole to do?
I think once you get 100% capacity fans once again, and you have packed crowds every night, that's when you reunite the Undisputed Era, maybe a year from now or something like that. Obviously you got to give it time to cool off with this feud, but I think eventually they are going to reunite once there's crowds again. And maybe if they do call up Adam Cole, they do it on the main roster and set up something for a Survivor Series or something like that down the line.
What do you think, Ryan? You think is Adam coming up, or should he come up?
It's tough because of the pandemic. Like you're talking about the 100% crowds. I agree with you. I would like to see Adam Cole get the moment in front of a packed house when he comes up. I don't know if they can wait potentially how long that could still be at this point to do it though. But you're right. Then what do you do with him in the interim? And I think Cole would probably stay pretty hot staying on NXT, but then I go back to my earlier point I made about Io Shirai, where you come off a hot program and then you want to capitalize where they're still hot. So there's that point too. But you usually have the post WrestleMania big call ups, and this one would totally make sense. So
I just hoped it got at SmackDown, because you got Daniel Bryan behind the scenes. I think just as much as he's been on the rise of with Cesaro, I think he's been behind that a lot. I think he would take care of Adam Cole, and them two could just tear the house down at SummerSlam or something.
Here's the problem, though. Raw needs him more. Raw 100% absolutely needs him more, because look at it. Here's my fear, right, is they bring him on to SmackDown where you have a 2-hour show where you literally can't get everybody on the show every week, and you got guys like Murphy and Aleister Black who can't even get on television. And then you have a guy like Shinsuke Nakamura who they're literally doing nothing with. He had a match. He had 2 really good matches with Seth Rollins. That's it. That's basically what he's been doing. He's basically not enhancement talent, but he's basically there to help put other people over at this point. They're not doing anything of substance with him. So those are 3 guys that are all really, really good. 2 former NXT champions right there. You add Adam Cole into the mix. I just don't know. I just fear that he would end up in the catering crew. Mm-hmm. I think he has a better chance on Raw, even though he does have better matchups on SmackDown. It's just it's a weird situation what they got going on right now.
I just think the way that they have Raw and SmackDown booked, I think he would be totally screwed on Raw and would flourish on SmackDown.
Or maybe they find something else for him to do in NXT. Remember the last time we thought, oh, well, it's a slam dunk. Adam Cole's coming up. Then Pat McAfee came along. Maybe we could just bring Pat McAfee. But you know, maybe they're both bad guys now, so maybe Cole can team up with Pat McAfee. That might be an interesting little thing that they could do there.
Yeah, I miss Pat. That feud was so good.
I would like to see Kyle O'Reilly, continue. I'm happy to see him in the singles push right now to get this big win. I think that he could do a lot of good stuff on NXT. You mentioned earlier with potentially a challenger for the NXT title coming up. There was one little part in this match that I just saw in like my 2 pages of notes that I wanted to make sure to mention that I thought was super cool from a psychology perspective and just like the small details in the match. So there was a near fall late in the match where it was shortly after Cole hit the brain buster on Kyle across the stairs on the outside. That was where Beth yelled, "Cole has no conscience," and they go in the back in the ring for the 2 count, and where Kyle just barely got his shoulder up.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool. Cause like how many times basically your whole life probably watching wrestling where you think a match is over and you get that close 2 count, but the guy just throws his shoulder up. Right.
Yeah.
You're like, where did he get the energy to do that? And he just like barely raised his shoulder. And when you watch that, you think that's how they should always do it. Like you could just barely get your shoulder up at the last. I thought that was such a cool little thing in the match. I like that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention that. That was very, very good.
It was like the weakest kick out, but the most effective kick out in terms of telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, guys. This has been great. We've officially run through the card, and we got so many more shows to go over the next week. So keep an eye on Sportskeeda Wrestling channels, all of them: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. For sure, because we're going to have post SmackDown tomorrow, Smack Talk, right after about 10:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, Sid, and the legend himself making his Smack Talk debut, Dutch Montel. He will be joining us, also known as Zeb Coulter, Mr. We the People himself. He will be here with us, joining us every Friday now from here on out. It's going to be a 3-person booth. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Looking forward to working with him. We're going to have post shows for WrestleMania this weekend. Ryan, what do you got going on? Anything you want to promote? I know you write for Sportskeeda as well. Anything you got going on you want to plug your Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Droste. That's Droste. And I host the Top Rope Nation Wrestling podcast. We'll be live after both nights of WrestleMania on YouTube. So you can search Top Rope Nation on there. We put out video and audio podcasts every single week. So check it out. Jeremy, what you got going on?
Well, as you see behind me, I've got a green screen. I'm going right into my podcast right after this. It's called Lost in the Midcard. You can find it on any podcasting apps, just searching for Lost in the Midcard, or on Facebook. We're on facebook.com/Lost in the Midcard, or Twitter's at LITMC Podcast. You can find me on the Twitter at JB Huskers. Give me a follow and, just BS with me every time I'm on there with a wrestling show. Would appreciate it. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem, guys. Appreciate it. Again, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Rick Ucchino. That is UCCHINO, and that's RICK, not Ric Flair with no K. But also, again, check out the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel. I got interviews this week with Kyle O'Reilly, even though he just did win his matchup. Still go back and listen to it because it was a great conversation and a really, really fun chat. 2-parter up there with Big E ahead of the Nigerian drum fight this weekend. That even he has no clue what the hell it is. We will all find out together when we watch WrestleMania 37 this weekend. That matchup is on night 2, so make sure to check that out, and hopefully I'll have more for you throughout the weekend here. So again, follow me on Twitter at Rick Ucchino. For Ryan, for Jeremy, appreciate everybody who chimed in, appreciate everybody who engaged with us, and keep an eye out for more content here from the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Have a good night, everybody.